and good evening. Welcome to the program. I'm delighted to have with me in the studio Joan Baum, who is the Green Candidate Party for Mayor. Terry, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, thank you for joining us. And tell me what happened last night. There was a mayoral candidate. There was a debate.
Yes, not a debate, a forum.
A forum.
A forum.
A forum.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And what happened?
Okay, well, let me tell you what happened before, leading up to this forum. I heard that it was happening, or we found out that it was happening, and I wasn't invited, and I felt very strongly that I was entitled to be on that stage because it's my neighborhood. I've been a homeowner there for 33 years. I'm a pioneer lesbian playwright, the only lesbian running, and I felt it's the gay neighborhood, so I was entitled to be there. And so I wrote, we called and we emailed the organizers, these two neighborhood groups, and said, we should be there. And the response we got was, a lot of the response was, it's not my decision, contact this person. Nobody ever actually acknowledged responsibility. But finally I got an email from the person to where the buck stopped, and he said, there's just not enough room on the stage of the Castro Theatre.
This is the Eureka Valley Neighborhood Association and DeVos Triangle Neighborhood Association who put this on.
That's
so there's just not enough room for you.
There's not enough room for you. There's so many candidates. So we were really pissed off, and we debated what we were going to do, and we did have this concept perhaps of charging in there, but we weren't sure. We knew we were going to hand out literature out front of I'm not there, why not? So then I opened the newspaper Monday morning, and Ed Lee has just announced on the day before that he's going to run for mayor. And under the caption of the picture, it says, Ed Lee will appear at a forum tonight. And that's when I just said, this is it. They told me there's no room on the stage, and then they invite Ed Lee. The day before the forum. So I said, I am going to be on that stage. So I got there and brought a chair, a little folding chair, which you could see, I don't know, in this picture.
Let's just
my little yellow
picture
folding chair, which was actually part of the set of a play I did.
So you brought your own chair in.
I brought my own chair, and I had my group of supporters, and I talked to the organizers, and they said, no, I'm sorry, and they were sort of very irritable about it. And then I just said, what the hell? And I walked up. People were sitting in there, and I just walked up on stage and put my chair down. And I said, so then, one of the organizers came up and said, you've got to leave. I'm sorry, you've got to leave. I'm sorry. I said, I'm not going to leave. Then they had I guess, plainclothes policewoman who was the one who would have arrested me. And she said, please. And I pulled out, I had in fact printed out in very large font the email where they had told me there was not enough space on the stage. So whenever anybody questioned anything, I pulled that out and showed it to them.
Meanwhile, this stage, which is the Castro Theatre, right, is enormous.
It's a movie palace.
It's a movie palace. There are 10 seats, I think, for the 10 candidates,
that's right.
including one for Ed Lee. He even had a name tag in front of him.
Yes.
So they had time to print that up as well.
Right.
But not enough time for you.
No.
So you come on to the right-hand side of the stage at about 6:30 at night.
Yeah.
Because I was there, by the way, and I saw you. And then you make a little. And then what happens?
I stood up and I talked to the people who were there, and I said, they don't want me to be here, and they told me there's not enough room on this stage, which isn't true. And I said, I should be here because I'm a neighbor. This is my hood. This is my movie theater. I've been coming here for 33 years. Also, I'm a lesbian playwright, and there's no other lesbians in the race, and this is the gay neighborhood. And also, I collected 1,280 nomination signatures on my petitions, which is more than signatures than half the candidates who were invited. So I'm entitled to be here, and they told me I can't, so I'm going to stay there. And people say, yeah, you stay there, you belong there. And so then I just sat down, and then, you know, they come up, one of the organizers comes up and he says, okay, now this is it. You've got two choices, all right? One choice is you go now quietly, and we'll just drop it at that. There'll just be no consequences. And the other choice is you stay here, and then we're going to have to call the police and arrest you. I said, okay, arrest me. Because at that point, I kind of thought maybe they would arrest me, but I quickly realized they couldn't, because I wasn't going to go willingly, and people would have rioted. The people there would not just have sat there while the police dragged me up the aisle.
And meanwhile, the theatre is filling up.
It's filling up
with
yeah,
people.
Right, exactly. It was an enormous crowd,
yeah.
because it was Ed Lee's first appearance,
right,
as a candidate for mayor.
Now,
and wow, did he get creamed for it?
He certainly did. I want you.
That was great.
Yeah,
so anyhow, so I'm just sitting there. I'm sitting, and then they come and say, "Okay, you can. This is our last offer. You can make a final statement, but you can't be involved in answering the questions." I said, "No, I want to be a full participant." And then the thing started, and the moderator said, well, there's always surprises, aren't there? And we have the Green candidate for mayor, Joan Baum, with us, and she will make a final comment, final statement. And I said, no, I want to be included. But the truth is, it did not seem appropriate to me once I was there and once the whole thing started to grab the mic. And what happened was other candidates gave me their time to speak. So I was able to speak about public transit,
and I believe Bevan Dufty gave you space to talk about,
and so did Joanna Reese, and then Leland Yee gave me. I was sitting next to Leland Yee, who was actually after I spoke the first time. Leland Yee didn't look at me until I spoke the first time, and of course, I'm sure people in the audience who didn't know me thought I was perhaps a nut. Even if I was entitled to be on the stage, I was a nut. But then I spoke the first time on public transit, and people were much, much more open. And Leland Yee was really quite nice to me. He said, wow, that was really great. And he said, it's a pleasure being on stage with you in this forum. And then he said, I want you to have my final 2 minutes. So that was a pretty nice present, because the final 2 minutes is the time where you really get to say what you want to say. So I actually had a longer time for my final statement than anybody else. And I felt very good about being there. I felt just not accepting what the little bureaucratic, picky rules, and demanding to be heard and demanding a space, even though the truth is, the real essential difference between me and the other people was that I hadn't raised huge amounts of money. That's the real bottom line of why they did not invite me. And I was not an elected official, and I hadn't raised an enormous amount of money. And I felt, no, in a democracy, it's important. And in fact, the same man, the organizer who came up and said to me, you have two choices, came up to me afterwards and thanked me for being in the forum, said I really added a lot to it, and he gave me his card, and he said if there was anything he could do to help me, he would. So.
In fact, I have to ask you, are mayoral debates or forums this entertaining? This is the first one I've ever been to. And
this one was really entertaining. What with me and then everybody.
And Ed Lee, of course. Yeah,
yelling liar at Ed Lee.
Right. It was a very raucous time, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It felt kind of like a democracy, didn't it?
It actually did.
It really felt like a real live democracy. Wow, what a wonderful thing.
I actually know there was some there were about closer to 10 questions that were asked, and I thought, as you didn't have an opportunity to answer some of them, that we would actually talk about, give you your chance
Sure,
to
I'd
have the
love to.
microphone right now. So the first question that struck my attention was affordable housing. How would you, as mayor, guarantee affordable housing to people?
Okay, one thing I have to say, I don't like this word affordable. We never used to have it. Affordable to whom? I like low income housing, middle income housing, family housing. Because some of the affordable quote unquote housing, you have to have an annual income of $80,000 to qualify. That's the minimum. So this affordable is this word that has been introduced, I feel, by the right to sabotage the concept of housing for people that is subsidized. I would have a moratorium on market rate housing. I think there's enough rich people in San Francisco. I don't think we need any more. I feel that, let's just really put the brakes on market rate housing and focus our energies on people who cannot afford the market rate in San Francisco. And guarantee, I don't know how anybody can guarantee anything, but I do feel, for one thing, I'm a firm believer in the squatting movement. I lived in Amsterdam for 5 years, where it was quite a way to use the housing that wasn't being used otherwise. And in fact, there are 10,000 homeless people, and there are 30,000 vacant units in San Francisco. So we could just simply eliminate all the homeless people by creating a legal work for squatting, which is what they did in Holland. And that's one of the things I'm very much behind. That doesn't mean that people take legal possession of that housing forever, but while it is not being used, then it is being used by somebody. That people do not have the right, just because they own a building, to keep it vacant forever. That's one thing I would do. I do believe in building on the main transit corridors, especially Geary and Mission. And again, this is partly based on my experience living in Amsterdam. I think 4 stories is very nice height, because you don't need an elevator with 4 stories, and it creates a density. I think it would be okay for there to be more people in San Francisco, not more cars, but more people. I would welcome a larger population without the cars. So those are the things I would do. Also legalize in-laws.
Legalize in-laws?
Yes, I'll legalize all the in-law units.
Well, we're talking about cars. There were several questions on transit last night, including the central subway, and also cost of Muni and Muni delays. And I know you've got some opinions about Muni. Would you like to share those with us?
Well, yes, I'm not a car person, although I have to say, for the first time in 25 years, I have a car because I've developed a foot problem. And as soon as it's all over, I'm getting rid of the car. But so I'm a bus and walking person. I also think we have to talk about bicycles as part of public transit. And again, on the European model, we need really safe, dedicated bike paths all over the city with physical barriers separating them from the cars.
I have to say, as somebody who's too terrified to ride a bicycle, that sounds like a great idea to me.
Yeah,
actually.
I am also too terrified to ride a bicycle in San Francisco. And in terms of buses, I don't think you can ask people to rely on something that is not reliable. And Muni is not reliable. I want buses every 10 minutes from 6 a.m. to midnight, and every half hour from midnight to 6 a.m.
Well, last night you were something of an outsider looking in, and you forced yourself into the premises, or into the show, which I thought was definitely added a lot of excitement to the thing. How do you rank your campaign in terms of its success in reaching out to other communities, and in terms of just being that outsider? How are you going to make an impact and your voice heard?
Well, I already did, and I am. You know, I'm. Tom, my campaign manager, calls our campaign an insurgent campaign. Don't know how far it's going to go. I don't have the resources to, do big things. I'm waiting to see. I'm putting myself out there, and I'm waiting to see what comes as a result of that. I have made a lot of contacts with people in the homeless community or who are working with homeless people, and also the squatters and Poor Magazine, they're very sort of visionary radicals, really, really exciting people to meet and inspiring to me. I am very connected. From the time I ran for Congress, I really connected with the Bayview Hunters Point community and remained involved with their struggle to close down PG&E. And I'm the only candidate for mayor who issued a statement about the Kenneth Harding shooting.
Tell me more about that, because I know with the riots going on in England, which had to do with a black man being shot by the police, there's certain parallels here.
Right.
So, which I find chilling.
Yes.
So tell me.
Well, okay, first of all, there should be an independent investigation. It's always the police investigating themselves. And in fact, it was the police that told us, that evaluated that the bullet which killed Kenneth was not from a police gun. They're the ones who said that. And the credibility just simply isn't there.
Don't trust the police?
You know what? It's not just the police. Nobody is qualified to investigate themselves. It's just a very simple principle. You are not objective. You have a tremendous incentive to shape the evidence or shape what is said about the evidence. There's also the fact that they had policemen checking people's Muni transfers. They had policemen working as fair inspectors. That's wrong. If the policemen were there to protect people, that's okay. But to have them work as fair inspectors is intimidating to everybody. It's completely wrong, and they wouldn't do it in Noe Valley, where I live. Another thing is, when they actually shot at Kenneth Harding, they were shooting in the direction of a very busy playground in the middle of the day. So the police risked hurting and killing a child in order to possibly kill him or bring him down. So this whole incident was created by the police, in fact, by their inappropriate fair inspection, and it makes the whole Bayview Hunters Point community feel less safe. I mean, really, truly, I have a friend there, and she just said, nobody's going outside. And another aspect is the concept that a lot of people reacted outside of Bayview's Hunting Point was good riddance to bad rubbish. Okay, he wasn't actually specifically accused of anything, but sounds like he was a really bad person, and great that he just got killed and he's not around anymore. There were a lot of letters to the editor like that, and I feel like that's simply not our system of justice.
How are you going to make San Francisco a more compassionate place? Because I think what you just described now with these letters to the editor, to me, is an undercurrent of what's going on in our city. We're losing compassion.
I agree.
How are we going to make San Franciscans feel like they're San Franciscans first and the particular labels later?
This identity that we have, this dream we have of what San Francisco is, that all outsiders think we already are, But I feel that it's time for San Francisco to woman up and become that city, because the people in San Francisco who are hurting need us to do that, and really the whole country needs San Francisco to lead in a different direction, because we've become very complacent. We have this incredibly corrupt administration in City Hall, and that really doesn't give a damn about anybody except the people within the Democratic machine and the wealthy donors. And in fact, we're having this Mayor shoved down our throats by Willie Brown and Rose Pack, who actually think they're entitled to run the city. And
we've actually got just about a minute left. I wanted to give you an opportunity to give people an opportunity to hear you why you should be running for mayor. Okay, now also if you could just touch on ranked choice voting.
Oh, yes.
All in 1 minute.
Oh my gosh, ranked choice voting. Yes, I wouldn't be running if there wasn't ranked choice voting, so I'm very grateful to it. I want to tell you that you can send a message that you are fed up with settling from the crumbs that fall from the table of the rich and the big corporations by putting me number 1, okay? Now, don't put me 2 or 3, because if everybody puts me 2 or 3, the votes will never be counted. At this point, I'm low woman on the totem pole. Send a message with your number 1 vote. By voting for me, and for 2 or 3, put another candidate who's higher in the polls, who you think would be a good mayor. My suggestion is John Avalos. He's my number 2 at this point.
Terry, thank you very much for coming on the program. I wish you the very best of luck. Terry candidate, thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve.
And actually, I got this wrong. We've actually got a minute left.
Oh,
I do apologize.
wow,
So you
okay.
got so all right.
I want to talk about democracy.
Go ahead, Terry. I do apologize.
That's why I'm running. I'm a passionate believer in democracy. And I feel that, as Winston Churchill said, it's the worst system of government except for all the others. And it's we don't have a democracy. It's something that we could be working towards if we all got much more involved. It's not just about voting. It's about really, really spending time working on an initiative that you believe in or for a candidate you believe in. It's also about running for office. Even if you're not a politician or a lawyer or whatever is defined as an appropriate candidate for office, I feel this is a wonderful project.
And on that note, we have to go. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you,
really
Stephen.
appreciate it.